Those are usually numbered. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Audio Production Town Hall. We're glad you could join us today. Each month, you'll find us here talking about all of our favorite audio topics, which could include creating records, all the way through to audio production for games, video games, and films, and TV shows, etc. But today we've got something a little bit different. But if you can't join us today, you can always see us archived on our YouTube channel. So today we're talking very specifically about using your Mac to the max. So it's a subject material that we find is very, very important here at Full Sail to make sure that you keep your Mac running clean and tip-top condition. So we're going to talk about that, but my name is Lee Riley. I am the course director for audio post-production, game audio production. I used to be the audio post-production, game audio production online. And joining me is Rich Diaz from audio post-production. Hello. Is the associate.
I'm the associate course director of audio post-production.
Awesome, thank you.
How are you guys?
You didn't fluff it, I did. So anyway. So what are we going to talk about? Well, if we look at my desktop here, which, yes, this is the desktop, right? It's quite easy to navigate around. So we'll deal with, what's the analogy I'm looking for? So every so often you've got to change the oil in your car, right? Just to keep it running smoothly, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there are given intervals that the manufacturer of the oil will say, 3,000 miles, 6,000 miles, whatever it may be. Our analogy is we're going to kind of keep away from that a little bit, but we're going to make it more like 12,000 miles. It'll still run. You've got to change it eventually, but there's a way to keep everything in tip-top condition. So how do I know what OS I'm running? So up here in this Apple menu right here about this Mac, I am currently running Ventura. So that's 13.6, 13.6.3. You can find out a lot of information in this area right here. Of course, how much memory you've got in the computer, what type of chip you're using. You can go into more info, and it tells you a lot of information physically about this particular OS. Now, some of you may think, well, okay, why do I keep getting OS updates? Oh, it just automatically updates. I say, well, okay, see right here underneath my Apple ID, you'll be able to see, and of course it's going to tell you, upgrade now, right? So generally we try to keep, and the audio program, of course, we try to keep away from macOS Sonoma if we can until it becomes fully supported for a lot of our applications. Now, here in this window, there's a few hidden items, right? So we can actually check. If you're just looking for minor updates, which isn't too bad, for example, like Safari, you can actually go right here for more info. And this is like stages of. So we can have stages of the particular OS itself. This is 13.6.4. That's a gig update, right? It's amazing how big these updates are nowadays.
Know.
So this is 13.6.4, and then it just says you don't have to actually update that. You can click on this and just click on Safari, and that'll just be a Safari update. So you can update your browser, keep the security going good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, you can hit install now, and that's done. But some of you are wondering, I must admit, I've heard when I'm grading assignments that they say, oh, well, over the weekend, it just updated automatically.
Exactly.
And it can do,
yep.
Right, Rich? So, but it's like, well, okay, where do we find that? It's just, these could be found right here. Of course, I'd like to check for updates if I have them. Excuse me, I like to be reminded, that I have an update, a minor update, but notice how I have that checked off. Whereas we have download new updates when available, okay, and I don't want to install macOS updates without telling me first and saying, yes, I manually want to install this, right? I don't want it to be no automatic. I don't want anything like that. I'd rather do it manually when I'm ready and when I'm actually using an application that is compatible and supports that. Right? So that's really the main thing about that particular. Should I? The question is, I want to ask, actually, to myself at this moment, is should I update to Sonoma? And I think I've kind of covered that. But a lot of applications that you might need to use. I mean, I think Logic is supported because it's an Apple product.
Exactly.
But any other Ableton, I don't know if it is currently, but a lot of audio, I mean, especially like Pro Tools, for example, isn't really completely 100% supported. So we would definitely strongly suggest that you don't update to Sonoma.
Even plugins too.
Yeah, a lot of plugins will be affected by this, of course. So don't think that the architecture of the application itself is enough. There's the plugin manufacturers, which is a third party to everything else, right? So I will now pass it on to my established colleague here to talk about, what is this? I mean, can you explain really what we're looking at here? So if we want to switch over to Rich's computer, that'd be great.
That's awesome. And Lee, you bring up good points about not updating. I know we're always eager to update to the next greatest and best thing, right? Sure. Have the newest. Right. But when it comes to the audio world, we are creatures of habit. And we definitely don't want to update because it's going to completely just more than likely destroy everything that we have, and we won't be able to get into the software or third-party plugins we won't be able to use. And what happens when we can't use software that we really depend on? Yeah. Well, the studio shuts down. Exactly. We can no longer now do any work, finish any work. So it's very crucial not to really jump the gun and want to update, even though we want to. My rule of thumb is 6 months to a year. Yeah. So I'm still running, I'm running Ventura, and I'm not going to update to Sonoma until probably this coming September. Yeah. Yeah. Everything's running great, and by the time I update to Sonoma, everything, all the bugs are out. Right? Of course, that's the way it is. So I don't have to worry about it anymore. So now, you guys are seeing my desktop, and it's a mess. That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, and I had to deliberately mess it up because I'm trying to replicate what I see students when I ever do a Zoom, and I ask them to share their desktop. It's usually, this is not that bad. It's actually worse. I call it trying to find Waldo because it does get very distracting. It's very difficult. If you think about it, right, it's called a desktop for a reason because we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. That name desktop comes from this actual physical desktop. Yep. Imagine if this desktop was as messy as your virtual desktop, it would be then harder for you to find stuff just laying around. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to organize the desktop in a way that we can find things, but also then not rely on the desktop to immediately go to things. So, and we'll get to that in a moment. So one of the things I like to do is whenever I see a desktop like this is just click on just an empty area. Because when you click on the empty area, you actually are in Finder, which is the actual computer itself. You're not in any software. So if I click on any empty area and I do Command-I, so Command-I, and that gets me this beautiful window called Get Info. And you can get info out of anything. I can get info out of this folder if I want. It'll give me information of this folder, any files, any documents, any programs, apps, absolutely. Yeah. So what this is telling me right now is that I have 109 gigs sitting on this desktop. Wow. And if I think about this, I convert this to weight, like actual physical weight. If you think about it, if you're carrying more weight, it's really going to slow you down if you decide to, let's say, walk down the street, if you're walking down a block. So 109 gigs is a lot. That's a lot of weight you're putting on the desktop. And the reason why is because I think of it this way. If the motherboard is the brain of the computer, then I associate the RAM as the heart of the computer. And one cannot live without the other. Now I'm sounding like Morpheus from The Matrix. But it is true. It is it is important for us not to stress all the computations that the computer has to do, and the RAM does that. This is why we have access to everything. RAM standing for random access memory. The fact that I can see my desktop screen, the fact that I can see the actual folder icons, the names, all that's because of RAM. The computer won't turn on if you remove the RAM. If you try to power it up, it won't turn on. Yep. That's how important the RAM is. And then you have to be mindful about how much RAM you have allocated to your computer. Mine has 16 gigs of RAM. So it is definitely a lot, but we also have other programs.
And that's affecting the graphics card as well?
Yeah, the graphics card,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is affecting other programs that we rely on RAM for, like Pro Tools is notorious for using a lot of RAM. I mean, I think you need 8 gigs to even work it, to start it up.
Absolutely.
16 gigs for it to be functional.
Yeah.
You know, so we definitely want to organize this, but we also want to start moving things around. So if we're talking about organizing this, what we're going to do is we're going to go first to show view options, which is a shortcut is Command-J. And I want to first move this around. So I'm going to sort this by name. And what it's doing at this point is snapping to a grid, which means that I can no longer grab this folder and move it to the left and leave it there. Okay. What I've noticed students do when I look at their desktop is they'll take the screen and they'll allocate each corner. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm not sure about. This is what I've worked on, and this is what I newly downloaded. Yep. So they're using a kind of way of organization, but it's not going to be helpful after a while. So now if I sort this by name, it's snapped to a grid. I can no longer move this around. I can now also just take the label position. I can change it. I can change it to bottom if I want, which is, I used to have it like this for many, many years. Since I started using Mac in 1998. And it wasn't until at least 4 or 5 years ago that I decided one day to just click on right. And I was like, goodness, this is much better. So little by little, I'm also changing my workflow. The next thing I like to do is show item info. And then as you can see, you're getting more information of what's inside that folder. Yep. Also, you'll get information of screenshots, the resolution. And then show icon preview. I like to show this too. So if you hit spacebar, you're seeing something like this. Or if it's a file, you're seeing something like that. So I'm going to close this. And then the next thing I like to do...
all you're doing is really using your keypads then, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just using the spacebar on my keypad.
Yeah, because you haven't even touched the...
No, I'm not actually using the trackpad at all.
Yeah.
I have an extended keyboard out here.
Yep.
And a mouse.
Yes.
The next thing I like to do is go to System Settings. Actually, hold on one second. Finder, and then go to Settings. They renamed this. And then let me go here. Yeah. And then I'm going to go to General. And I don't know why Apple does this, but normally when you actually buy a new Mac and you set it up, external disk is checked. Hard disk is not.
It's not, yeah.
So, and I don't know why they don't just automatically have that as a default. So you click on and check that so you can see your hard drive. This is really important. And then what I like to do is I like to go to Sidebar. And if I double click on my hard drive, I like to turn on some of these boxes that you see are now going into favorites. All you're doing is turning them on and off. And then the last thing is show file name and extensions like .pdf, .doc, yeah. .ptx, things like that.
Yeah, Pro Tools, yeah.
So now, if I close these windows, I can see how the Mac is actually organizing things. So anything that's the hard drive, external hard drives, or dongles are on top. Anything numeric is next, and anything that's alphabetized is after that. This is how it loves to really arrange things. For me, it's actually great. So that's one part right here. So what else do I like to set? Well, I like to set the resolution. If if I go to System Settings, go to Display. Okay, so I'm not going to change them here, but I want everyone to think about this. Screen Realty is at a premium, right? You only have 16 inches. So if your resolution is set really low, the images and the words are going to be much bigger, which means you can only see so much. If you increase the resolution, then everything does become smaller. It is a trade-off if you're using glasses, so you have to just decide which resolution works best for you. But that means you get more space. You get more on the desktop. If you're using, let's say, Pro Tools, I use Pro Tools as an example, you can see more tracks at one time. If you're using a web browser, you get to see more of that web browser. So play around with the resolution and find which one that works for you. I know I like to go to, full resolution. And also be mindful that if you have an external monitor, these same settings also, you can apply those to that external monitor, and they're independent from each other, which I find beautiful. They don't talk to each other in that way. So in my studio, I have 250-inch 4K TVs. And I went up to 4K and realized it's really, really small.
Really small, yeah, it is.
So I went down to about 2K. Which I found, my medium. So I jump between 1080p and 2K, depending of what I'm actually editing. Actually, you're able to see things much better.
Sure.
So that's the display that I want students to really be familiar with. Now here's another one. It's called Mission Control. Quit this. Quit. Command Q. Quit is Command Q. Everyone. Quit is Command Q.
Command W is like closing windows, right?
Yeah, Command W is closing windows, absolutely. As a side note, because I just mentioned Command Q, I have Pro Tools right here. As a side note, clicking the red dot only closes a window. Only closes a window. This same session is still on.
Yeah, because
I just closed the window. If I do Command plus equals, now I can open a window. Okay, so be mindful that the red dot just closes a window 99% of the time. There are some apps that are Mac-based that will quit the program, but for the most part, that just closes a window. The amber minimizes to the dock, and then the green expands it full screen. Okay, that's how that works. And we'll get to how I'm switching in a moment. Mission Control. I really love Mission Control. And the reason why is because it does this. It gives me the ability to switch between different desktops because there's only so much you can fit on one desktop. So having the ability to add another clean desktop and then add any app or any windows that you have is very useful, especially if you're only using, again, your computer monitor and you don't have an extended monitor. If I'm on a train, on a plane, in a bus, in my car. Obviously, I won't be driving if I'm in the car. If I have my laptop, it's only my laptop. So I can use Mission Control to be able to actually harness the power of having different desktops. So what I like to do real quick is I'll do 4 fingers up, and then I'll actually have this pop up. And as you can see, I have quite a few desktops, and that's because I have multiple monitors. But one way to add a desktop is to just click on, go all the way to the right, and click on plus. So I've just added a desktop. So now if you think about it, I have Pro Tools on one. And then I have all these empty ones. So I can switch between different desktops so I can actually have different things on each desktop. I can have a web browser on one, I can have Pro Tools on the other one, I can have whatever else I can use on that desktop.
But there's something else. Could I show them the dock?
Yeah.
So I mean, apart from navigating that way across the screen, right? We've got something right at the bottom, which I like to show my students, which is the dock, right? So the dock, when I hang my cursor down the bottom, it actually shows something that gets docked into the bottom of the screen.
Absolutely.
So, Option Command D will actually bring that up, and then Option Command D will hide it again. right? If you want to keep it fixed, because some people like to keep them fixed. I personally like to, if I go to the bottom of the screen, is go and search. But not just that, the Command tab is actually going through applications that are currently open. Right? So I'm holding down my thumb on the Command key and then hitting the Tab key to navigate between whatever I want to go to. Right? So that's something that's really easy instead of clicking and closing windows.
Yes.
You know, that's something that could normally happen. So that's a great way to get around. Now, let's say these are the ones that I've customized to show in the bottom. Right? So let's say I'm using a particular application or a folder or anything, really, that I'm using for that particular class. So I could be in Richie's class or he could be in my class, and we're using an application for that. So I could go and grab a particular application from here. Let's just say I've already got Pro Tools, but let's say, do I have Apple Music in here? No, I don't. So let's say I'm using that. I can just grab that, drag it down to the dock, and let go of it. And it's temporarily there, right? It's there until I move it. So once again, I could click on that, launch it, and then navigate between those. Now, it's easy enough just to get rid of it. It's not going to delete it from the computer.
No.
But you can just kind of click on it, left click on it, and then you can drag it upwards. My mouse is being a little awkward. So see, it's going remove, and you hear that little right? And it gets rid of that. So that's something really, really cool that I like to do a lot. Now, I'm using the mouse here to navigate, but I could use the command up and down arrow to get between into and across my computer. For example, if I'm in documents here, I can just keep going down, the down arrow, and then use the down arrow itself, left hand not even being used here, and I can go up and down to navigate so you can really fly through this, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to go into jury duty, do we?
No,
So
you don't want to.
definitely not that. So we're going to go up into 4316, which is my course, and they can hit the command down arrow, and you can keep going down and up. You know, you can navigate into those folders and back out again. So the up arrow is getting out and down arrow is getting in, kind of thing, right? So that's kind of cool to do that. Let's say I'm using this particular folder a lot throughout the month. So I can, at a glance, down here in my favorites, because it's my favorite class this month, right? It's the only class that I'm taking, and plus it's Lee's class, right? So
Yes, exactly.
So I'm going to actually drag that into this sidebar, and I let go of it. It doesn't really move it per se, but it gives you like this little area where you can go in. Now notice how it's changed views here, so we can change those views. I think Rich is going to talk about that in a little bit, but we've got all these different views that we can do. But I just moved my assignment folder, which I would strongly not do, because in my class, for example, and when you're in Sound for Games and an AP2, right? It is, as soon as you shift your documents folder, or if you move that, if you remove your assignments folder to somewhere else, I usually have students that download them straight to the downloads folder and keep it there.
Yes.
So keeping it in the documents folder, in the root of the documents folder, because it is a document, right, where we keep all of our folders, that allows it so that Wise will not break any of the code that it's inside the application itself, right?
Exactly.
So it needs a certain place to navigate to within the application. So we've got to be careful. I would not change the assignment folder at all. I didn't change it. I just changed the view where I could find it. That's all I just did. In Finder, right? So folder navigation, I think that's pretty much it, right? Folder navigation. Oh, finding a file, real quick, and I can pass it on to you, Rich. Now, there's something called Spotlight, which we disengage, which is Command 3. And, you know, Command 3 is going to, am I right? Or is it spacebar?
No, it's Command Spacebar.
Command Spacebar, that's right. Yeah, Command 3 is, sorry, forgive me. There's so many quick keys,
Yes.
whatever. So Command Spacebar Well, actually, if I clicked on this right now, Command Spacebar, it is working.
It is working.
Right. But the thing is, if I'm running Pro Tools,
Which I have up.
right, well, there we go. Please, I mean, let's see. But it's just one of those things that it is connected to the record, right?
Yeah.
Just throw yourself into record is Command Spacebar in Pro Tools, which is also 3 as well. This is a way of us searching the entire computer. I personally don't like it as much as, because you can set this preference, of course, by going up into System Settings and setting your appearance, where is it now? Siri and Spotlight. You can determine what gets searched or what type of information gets searched, which is kind of cool, but I don't think the search is as good as physically going to the Spotlight within Finder.
Yeah, 2 separate things.
Yeah, 2 separate things, right? So this is still Spotlight up here, but I think opening a new window, by the way, is Command N, which is now going to open up another window. So Command N, Command W is going to close that, right? So that itself, I think, is a better place to search for a file, really. I'd love to show you a bit more about it, but I guess we can kind of move along here. We can just keep talking all day,
Yeah,
I guess,
I know.
whatever it may be.
All day.
But I'm going to hand it on to you to, what was it, the Documents folder, I guess?
Yeah. I I want to show them in Pro Tools how that Spotlight is an issue. So if you don't turn off Spotlight on the Mac, if I do Command Spacebar to record, I get Spotlight.
Yeah.
So that's one of the issues. So what I like to do is I like to go into System Preferences, then go...
Which is in your dock.
Yeah, in your dock. Then go to Keyboard, go to Shortcuts, and then go to Spotlight and turn Spotlight off. And I like to turn both of them off.
Yeah.
So now I can actually do Command Spacebar, and now I'm recording.
Yep.
So that's one that conflicts with Pro Tools. There's another one. That's if you want to adjust track height. Control up and down, you see what happens. I'm getting mission control.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is I want to disengage this. So again, I go to System Preferences down in my dock, and I go to Mission Control, and I'm going to disengage this one right here.
Control up arrow, yeah.
Up arrow and Control. So now, if I want to increase the height of one specific track, I can.
Yep.
Okay, little things that are definitely
it's amazing.
going.
But frustration. It's
Yeah,
definitely
it is frustration. It is frustration.
You know, if you're not kind of used to it,
No.
and with this skill set,
Yeah, exactly.
you can actually navigate all the way through. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what the files I have here, because it's great. I've organized them. The problem is that I still have 109 gigs sitting on my desktop, slowing down the processing of my desktop and my computer. So I want to go to my hard drive, and there's one folder here that literally answers that question. It's not applications, it's not desktop, it's documents. So that is part of the system of the Apple software. So if it's already named documents, guess what goes in there? Documents, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back or put back all my stuff that I dragged out from my subfolder called Assignments. I'm going to grab all this. And since I've already clicked on the Assignments folder, I can just drag it to this window.
Subfolder within that, yeah.
Exactly. Grab this. Now I have to be careful because I don't want to drag this on top of the folders because then it'll go inside. Well, you know what? Why don't we do that? Let's grab all of these and let's drag it into this one. Let's say I accidentally dragged it into that. And you realize, oh man, that's the wrong place to put it. Well, just like the shortcuts for Word, right? Command Z, Command V, Command C itself, it's universal. So if I did something that it was incorrectly, all I do is hit Command Z to undo it. So I just did that last move. So now what I can do is grab it again, and then I can drag it into an empty spot, which is right here. Now it's populated. So the next thing I like to do is, because I don't want to go into documents to go to my assignments to grade. No, what I did was I actually dragged this folder right here into my favorites. So then all I have to do is click here.
There you go.
And actually just go directly to that. Okay? And this is a good way to demonstrate how you can really get organized when it comes to file management. This is what I like to teach students when they're having an issue of organizing their computer in general. I like to go into documents, right? And then I tell them, click Shift-Command-N, which is the shortcut of creating a new folder, right? And I'm going to treat this like if you're a Full Sail student. So I'll type in Full Sail. Then what I'll do is I'll create a subfolder. So now this is to archive things that you've already completed. Again, Shift-Command-N. So we're in January, and let's take my class as an example. So I'm teaching AP2, which is Project and Portfolio 2, which is month 12, right? So what I can do is name this P and P, right? 2, Project and Portfolio 2, and then go January 24. So now I know that that's the class that I've taken, or I have my materials, and I took it in January 2024. What I can also do now, since that folder is highlighted, Shift-Command-N, and I can create subfolders. And guess what? I'll create 4 subfolders. Go back to that. Left arrow.
Yep.
And now I have 4 folders here that I can name. I can take this, Command-C to copy, paste. Week 1, Command-A for all, Command-C to copy.
Yep.
Paste, delete 1, 2, down arrow, enter,
Yeah.
or return, Command-V,
Yeah.
delete, 3, down arrow, or return, down arrow, return, Command-V, delete, 4. So you notice that I went from holding the mouse to all of a sudden just doing things on the keyboard.
Ninja.
And it's very easy once you get used to it. But now, as you can see, I have the folder called Full Sail, the subfolder called Project and Portfolio 2, the month that I took it, the year that I took it, and I have the 4 subfolders also that I did all my work. And in here, you can put all your work based on the week that you did all that work. Now I want you guys to imagine this. Imagine having 12, 15, 22 folders in that Full Sail folder for every class that you've taken. I don't know about you, but I don't ever have to remember where things are at this point, because as long as I'm keeping things clean and I'm organizing things as I'm going along, then you can go back into it 50 years from now. As long as your laptop works, all you have to do is, your starting point is what? Documents. That will never change. And the moment you hit documents, you'll see the Full Sail folder. Then you start seeing all of the classes that you took, and you can see what month and what year.
Yeah.
And then you click on the subfolders, and you can see all the work that you have there.
And you can modify by date.
You can
right?
You can absolutely modify by
From
date.
the newest down or the oldest.
Yeah,
whichever.
Exactly. You can modify whichever you want, but it doesn't. It takes away all of the guesswork, trying to figure out what did I do, where did I put it 50 years ago? Now you don't, because you know your starting point's always documents, and this is how I keep things organized. As you can see, my documents folder, I have a few things that come already with installing things, like the music technologies, Pro Tools. Once you install Pro Tools, it does this. But as you can see, I have my assignment folder here.
And which view are you in there, Rich?
I am in column view. I like column view.
There you go.
Yeah, if you do Command 1, it'll give you, and I forget sometimes these names, icons, right? Not a big fan of that. Then this one is list,
yeah.
Then column, and then gallery.
Yeah. Gallery will go and show the photographs as well, won't it? If you go across a photograph or a document, it'll actually show the document right there.
Exactly.
A miniature version of it.
Yeah, it's like when and I don't know if the phones do this anymore, but they had what was it, ScreenFlow on the old ScreenFlow on the iPods. Display, you remember that?
Man.
The cover flow.
Yeah.
Cover flow. You used to see the covers. I thought it was cool, But that's what the last one is really. It's kind of that gallery look. Okay, so this is definitely a really cool way to organize your computer. And now, if I again do Command I on my desktop, it only says 230 kilobytes. That's nothing. That's like a Word document, if that. Okay, so now what you're allowing is the RAM not to worry about the desktop and worry about the rest of the computer.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's just holding that graphic card back. And I have a few of my weeks basically we're getting the students to create their own gameplay video.
Exactly.
So if they're capturing their own gameplay video, then the QuickTime itself is relying on the graphics card.
Yes, it is.
And it's just that the character is just, stuttering when it should be really...
Freeze frame.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, can you clean up your desktop? It might be good.
Exactly.
It's a guess for me to say that, but I think it's pretty much warranted that it usually is, right? And
no, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. This is great. Whatever. I've been wondering why it's been a bit sluggish.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much one of them.
Yeah. Well, another thing also is because I tell students you can do multiple things in Pro Tools. I say that too, but on the Mac you can do multiple things to actually the same multiple things in different locations. So this is what I mean. All right. So we clean the desktop, right? You guys know that my assignments are here. That's one way to get to them. But here's another way to get to them. If I go to my what's it called? My account.
Yeah.
Right? Here's
your user account.
Yeah, my user account. Here's actually where that folder is. Documents folder, desktop folder. These definitely are the actual folders, and you never want to remove these and delete them.
Yeah.
Right? So these are where these icons here reside. So now here's one thing I can do. I can go to my documents folder here, and I can do what's called an alias. Now think of an alias as this. Imagine if you're looking at a mirror, what I mean a mirror is like a tall mirror, right? Obviously the reflection is not really you. In other words, I can grab the mirror, pick it up, throw it, you're still around. You're not going anywhere. You're alive, right? It is the reflection that is destroyed, right? So if you think about it, the alias is kind of like that. It's a reflection or a wormhole to the actual location of the actual folder. So what I can do is this. I can right-click on that assignments folder, and I can make an alias. And as you can see, there's that little black arrow,
little arrow,
right?
Yeah.
That is an indication that it's an alias. So what I can do is grab it, move it to my desktop.
Sure.
Now, I was just saying, hey, you got to be careful with the files that are on the desktop.
Sure.
But if I do Command I on that file, it's only 848 bits. Why? Because that's the mirror.
Yeah.
Like, if I had Shaq in front of me, there's no way I can pick up Shaq. He's like 300 pounds. If I have a mirror of his reflection, I can pick up the mirror, and much more easier than that, right? So that's the actual reflection. So it doesn't take up hardly any size space on the desktop.
There's something I really wanted to
go right ahead.
say though, just before we're wrapping up. Initially, what would happen is if you're setting up your computer, some of our students actually set things up on a cloud service.
Oh,
right?
yes, exactly.
So the iCloud is kind of an important thing, but it kind of could be a dangerous thing as well.
Absolutely.
Right? If we just switch over to my desktop here, I can kind of tell you. And what we have, you get 5 gigs anyway of a free iCloud service, right? Through Apple. The thing is that Apple likes to sell you the 200 gig and everything else above, right? Which is only $2.99 a month, but hey. But still, you can have anything in your cloud drive here. One thing you should not, capital N-O-T, not do is technically set your documents into the cloud drive, because all the cloud is doing, it's constantly refreshing and saying, okay, depending on your internet service, it's going back and forth. Now, Pro Tools sessions and everything else is definitely a no-no, because that's, you do not want to be running your sessions from that. Because think about it, it's the speed of your internet. So how do we switch that off? It's a system settings thing, and when I open that, you have your Apple ID. Inside of the Apple ID is the cloud itself. Inside of that is your cloud drive. You can see what you've got there. Inside of the cloud drive is there. The first thing I would do is turn that off.
Yeah, desktop and documents.
Desktop and documents at the very least, because what's happening is, imagine anything right here, oh, and I'll just keep it on the desktop. Well, no, you're keeping it on the desktop, but it's also, we kind of like the alias thing we're talking about just a second ago, but it's worse because it's trying to back up and make a copy of itself automatically, and then you don't know where it is. Is it in the cloud? Is it physically on your desktop? So you want it to be running locally on your desktop. So that's any class that you take. If you've got a numbers doc, fine. If you've got a text edit, fine.
Or pictures.
Pictures or whatever it is. It's great for a backup. I'm not saying don't use it, but just don't run your or your applications and your class materials from it.
It's also not a professional format in regards to what we do in audio.
Sure.
Like when we're dealing with clients, we don't back things up in iCloud Drive. If anything, we send them through FTTP drives and send them to their servers. So I think of iCloud, it's great.
It's transfer or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good idea if I think iCloud Drive for personal use, but in the professional world, I've yet to have a client that says, yeah, send it through iCloud Drive. It's just not used at all. And then like Lee was saying, having Pro Tools open to iCloud Drive.
It's just trying to pull from, it just doesn't know where it's at.
No, exactly.
Well, anyway, I believe, is that it? I think so.
I think so too.
We're pretty much out of time. Excellent. So we've enjoyed ourselves today.
Yeah,
right?
we have actually, absolutely.
A good little fireside chat. But please note that this, for the last Monday every month, there's usually a town hall. It's somebody else or myself, or could be anybody, right? One of our staff members who are actually bringing you that month's town hall, whatever the subject may be. Last Monday of the month is the best time to catch it, and you can always see the archives on the YouTube channel. And I'd like to thank the show production students this month for audio-visual technologies class. A little round of pat yourselves in the back there. Excellent. Good job. Good job. And the course director, John Coast, for handling all the behind-the-scenes productions. Yay. And in my ear as well. Excellent job. So, great job, team. So, thank you for joining us, everyone, and have a great day.
Clean your Macs.
Clean your Macs.